if we look at history, the whole concept of it started in the Greek traditions with Hades being a place for lost souls. And then from there, we look at how the Christians took that Hades concept and made it into purgatory. But concurrently with all of this, the Tibetans then identified it as the Bardo. And then if you start to unpack Norse, the Scandinavian cosmology, their concept is Niflhel, place of lost souls. In our lifetime journey, we've always heard about haunted houses and ghosts and all of that, and it's been very much part of our day-to-day lived experience. And in the shamanic world, it's also known as the void, and it's that first level of consciousness after passing for lost souls, earthbound spirits, and that's what ghosts are, earthbound spirits. With earthbound spirits, there is a certain criteria that that matches earthbound spirits, and usually, but not always, but the majority of the time, it is people who have no belief system, who just believe that life is simply a chemical process here on Earth, and that nothing exists out of this. And when people don't have a belief system, then they invariably go, and let's just use the Tibetan term, the Bardo. They go there and stay there, and then they get plucked out of there and they come back to life to find a belief system. Also, those that don't have belief systems usually have trauma, and trauma, something that that gives us the opportunity to work through our trauma, to see our part in the trauma, and then to transcend our trauma and to find a belief system within us. Usually the people who go, the souls that go into the Bardo, are traumatized, have no belief system. And it's the place for the majority of suicides. So those people that think, if I suicide, I can escape all this life on earth that has been so traumatic and ugly, and I hate it and I'm out of here, then you go into the Bardo and you get to live all that again, time and time again, until you get plucked out of there and you come in and you have another go of going through life and trauma and finding meaning in your life and finding a higher belief that comes with that.
So the soul leaves the body, gets trapped in the Bardo, and then reincarnates to have a similar experience.
Yes, that's correct.
Where does a soul go if it's not going into the Bardo?
Usually they go to the second level of afterlife, which is the soul family. And the difference there is that we go to the soul family, we go through a process of, we review our lives. No one else does. We review our lives, and we get to see where we did well and where we didn't do so well. But we review our lives, and we're in our soul family. And in our soul family, we can say, okay, well, in my last life, I didn't do really well with forgiveness. When I next reincarnate, I want to go into a reality where I can experience forgiveness. And so when that happens, we have a choice. We have a soul purpose. We incarnate in, we choose our parents and whatever situation and whatever time in history we want to incarnate in, and to experience, for instance, in this case, for forgiveness. And so it becomes a choice thing, and has a purpose, as opposed to the Bardo, where we're in torment and reliving our trauma, and we're just plucked out of there and sent back to life and have another go of dealing with your trauma and finding a belief system. So one has choice and consideration and soul contracts and everything that comes into an incarnation, and the other is have another go.
So the process of deathwalking is retrieving a soul from the Bardo so that it can reincarnate.
You can go to the soul family.
Go to their soul family.
And then reincarnate on their own terms.
Okay.
Yeah,
So they're not stuck in a perpetual state of needing to learn that lesson.
that's correct. But when they're retrieved from the bardo, and it's interesting when we do this work in the shamanic world, we go in there, and the number of times that you're having, at times, even arguments about whether people are dead or not.
Yeah.
Because in the bardo, we still have this form, albeit it's energetic, and the frequency of people believing that they're not dead is quite remarkable.
Yeah.
So the first step is to convince them that they're dead, and then once they're at that stage, and then we can talk about, okay, well, you're going through this turmoil and all of that, and you understand, and and then the rest of it, and then we can take their soul to their soul family.
I remember when I retrieved a soul for a client whose friend had tragically died in a terrible work accident. I recall that she really didn't know what was going on, but she was just kept in this perpetual state of fear and kept reliving that experience of her tragic death. So it was very healing for me to be able to move her on to her soul family for that client.
Yeah, and that's the work that we do. I mean, for me, there's no more sacred work than taking a tormented soul out of their torment and taking them to their soul family.
For any practitioner wanting to go through the process of becoming a death walker, how will it be able to help them and their clients?
Well, firstly, it's a level 2 skill, so there's a fair bit of training that goes on before I believe people are ready to go and do this work. But when they are ready to do this work, the beauty of it is that we can bring eternal peace to a departed soul, but also we can close the loop on the story and the grief around someone's passing. For the family that's still here, to have that sense of peace that their loved one has found eternal peace and moved on, that can be of great benefit in the grieving process for people who have had a sad loss.
How has, I guess, the death walking process, how has it shaped your relationship with spirit?
Yeah, what has been interesting when we do this work, we travel in a different dimension. So it's like interdimensional travel, and this is one of the dimensions that we travel in outside of the five senses. If you're wondering about afterlife, this experience will deliver it to you in spades because you'll suddenly realise that, wow, there is this reality out there, and there are these souls that are there, and the fact that after you pass, your soul never dies. Our souls are eternal, and so it gives you the sense of, well, okay, this is for real. I'm dealing with a real soul here, and I'm doing this real work. And so, if you ever want validation of spirit and afterlife, come this journey and you'll get it in spades.
Yeah. And would you say that it's helped your own relationship with the thought of death?
Oh, absolutely. I have absolutely no fear of death whatsoever.
Yeah.
And look, I understand that we come here, we have this vessel, we go through life, we experience a whole range of different things. It's all part of our evolution as souls, and it's an ongoing process. And this is just one segment of a much larger ongoing process. And so I understand that. I have had that lived experience of spirit and how it all works. And there are times when I welcome the journey back into spirit and starting another journey and all of that.
I would definitely say, for me personally, having done the death walking training and having experienced going into the bardo and coming back, it definitely changed my perspective on death, and I was able to have more of a bird's eye view of like the cycle of how things work. And I think when you can see it like that, it does remove a lot of fear out of that process.
Absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. When you have that lived experience, you go, okay, I get it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and life becomes much more meaningful.
That's right, yeah.
Much more meaningful.
So as a shamanic practitioner, how often would you do a death walking ritual?
When I teach it, what tends to happen is my students, we're all impacted by suicide. And my students come, and some people have had more than one suicide impact their life, and to watch the change in them when we've been able to retrieve the souls of people that they know and that they love. This happens whenever I teach death walking, and at times we'll go through a process and 20, 30 souls will be retrieved in one day. Understand that there are a billion souls in the bardo. So it's not like you can go in there and say, I'm going to clean up the lot. It doesn't work that way.
No.
And occasionally, I would probably do half a dozen death walking a year for clients.
If someone was watching this video and they felt that they would like to know if someone who has passed is indeed in the bardo or in their soul family, is this something you could do remotely for them?
Leading up to the death ritual, we have a crossover ritual. So we're able to go into an older state of consciousness, and we can go and connect with that spirit, and we can ascertain from that spirit whether they're with their soul family or whether they're in the bardo. And that's a ritual that leads into the death walking ritual. So obviously, if someone's with their soul family, then you don't have to retrieve them, right?
Yeah.
But if they're not with their soul family, then the next step in the process is to go and retrieve that soul.
Yeah. So if someone had a tragic death in their life, or any death, and they're wondering, they could get into contact with you, and
Absolutely.
that's something you could check, and then if their soul needed to be retrieved, you could do that for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You believe that it's very important to have a belief before you die.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It's fundamental in our evolution. And the thing is that our journey is about evolving, but not evolving as in this vessel as a human being, but evolving as a soul and having all these different life experiences. And especially this time, I mean, the Earth is the emotional workshop of the universe. We're here to learn about emotion. We're here to learn about trauma, and this is all part of our soul evolution, not our body evolution, but our soul evolution. And in that sense, when we start to work on that soul level, we automatically have a belief system that we have a soul and a higher purpose. And that's what it's about. It's not about dogma. It's not about being a Christian. It's not about being a New Ager. It's not about being a pagan. It's not about being anything. It's about just having your own truth, your own belief system, understanding that we have a soul and our souls are eternal and our souls are in a constant state of evolution, and this is one part of that process.